Let me take you back to a cold night in Chicago, over half a century ago. Outside McVicker's Theater, a young boy stood on the pavement. The crowd pouring out had just been amazed by the great magician, Alexander Herman. But this boy wasn't part of the audience. He was a shivering newsboy, trying to sell copies of the Chicago Tribune. He had no coat, no home, and no money for a bed. That boy was Howard Thurston. That night, as he lay in the freezing cold, he vowed that one day, he too would be a famous magician. He dreamed of performing to crowds who applauded him, of wearing fine clothes, and of living a life far from the harsh streets. And, believe it or not, 20 years later, Howard Thurston returned to that same theater, not as a homeless boy, but as the headlining magician, fulfilling the promise he had made to himself that cold night. The road to stardom. But how did this boy rise to fame? Thurston's life was a series of dramatic turns, each more incredible than the last. As a child, he faced abuse at home. One day, after being cruelly beaten by his father, Howard ran away never to return. He lived as a tramp, surviving by begging, stealing, and stowing away on trains. He faced arrests, attacks, and danger at every turn. But despite the chaos, he developed a knack for entertaining others, starting with card tricks he practiced on his fellow tramps. At 17, Thurston found himself penniless in New York City. In a chance encounter, he wandered into a religious meeting. There, he heard a preacher speak about the potential within each person. There is a man in you. Those words struck a chord. Thurston wept, found faith, and decided to turn his life around. He enrolled at the Moody Bible School, working hard to catch up on an education he had never received. He couldn't read or write when he began, but taught himself everything from basic arithmetic to Greek. He even planned to become a medical missionary, dedicating his life to helping others. The mistake that changed his life, but fate had other plans. On his way to medical school in Philadelphia, Thurston made a small mistake that would change everything. At a train station in Albany, he bought a ticket to Syracuse instead of New York. Why? Because he had been so captivated by Alexander Herman, the great magician he had seen perform in a theater, that he unknowingly followed him to Syracuse. Though he never spoke to Herman, that encounter reignited his love for magic. Thurston abandoned his plans to become a missionary and instead pursued his passion for illusions. The rise of a magician. Thurston's path was far from smooth. He began by performing card tricks for medicine shows, earning just $5 a day. But he loved every second of it. He was billed as Thurston, the magician of the North, and traveled across the country perfecting his craft. Years later, Thurston became one of the greatest magicians in history. He was a showman like no other, meticulously rehearsing every gesture, every word, every raise of an eyebrow. His connection with his audience was unparalleled. Thurston once said, "I love my audience. I love to entertain them. I'm so happy." That love radiated from him and drew millions to his shows. The legacy of Howard Thurston. By the time of his death in 1936, Howard Thurston had performed for over 60 million people and earned nearly $400,000 a fortune in those days. Despite his fame and success, he often said the happiest days of his life were when he earned just $5 performing card tricks for small crowds. Howard Thurston's story reminds us that no matter where you begin, passion and determination can lead you to incredible heights. What do you think of Howard Thurston's journey?